Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do some weathering and some Gold TMM. Today I'll share with you a lot of weathering tips and tricks with this Adeptus Titanicus model kit. Today I'm not using my red grass wet palette because it's just weathering. I don't want to use the wet palette for black paints and metallic paints and washes. I'm using a model air here instead of the model color black because I'm not using the wet palette. So this pre-thinned paint will remain a bit more fluid for brush painting. As I've said in my last video, unload your paints on your fingers. You'll get used to it as you paint more fingers. After refining the flame painting and finished and happy with it, I sealed it with a Mecha matte varnish. Now let's weather with Vallejos. I've pre-selected my paints and now my table, the dirty side of my table, is ready for painting. We will be using the retarder medium almost all throughout the weathering process to retard the drying time of the paints, and also I mixed it with thinner to make it a bit more fluid. Of course, you could use water to dissolve Vallejo paints, but I prefer thinner because it kinda dissolves the paint better. Basically, we're doing post shading here with transparent paints instead of using the airbrush, because if we use the airbrush I'll be masking all the metallic parts, which is I hate masking, and also if you don't mask you'll have overspray all over the model. So we're doing post shading with transparent paints. Also, these transparent colors will add saturation to our model, especially to the yellow armor part, since after putting a lot of washes later, it will desaturate and tone down. So before we do weathering, we're saturating the whole model already. Of course, you could add saturation in Photoshop, but we don't want that. One of the most basic technique in doing paint chipping is to use the lighter color of the base color. So this could represent the fading and also the slight or very shallow scratches of the armor. Basically, you have to unload the sponge on a tissue paper, not your fingers, but a tissue paper or your shirt. My wife hates it when I unload paints on my shirt, but it's really effective. So this represents fading in a way and very subtle scratches. You cannot overdo this if you chose a color that is not too far from the base color, like what we did here. It just looks like natural fading. Now we use dark rust from the Panzer Aces range of colors. These are basically special colors but are same with model colors in terms of consistency. So you should thin them for the sponge technique, because if you don't thin the paints, you will create some sort of sandy texture because the paint is too creamy if you do it without thinning, and you'll create textures that you might not want. But if you like textures, don't bother to thin the paints for the sponge technique. Now we use the Mecha Light Rust Wash. You could use the classic model Light Rust Wash, but I do prefer my Mecha most of the time since I have plenty of them, and they tend to have a bit more saturation, I think, but I'm not sure. They're basically marketed as a more durable version of the classic wash. I can't say if it's true because I haven't really tested it. It's not like I'm going to scratch this with my nails after, so I'm not really sure, but they're similar to the classic washes, but I do feel they stain a bit more. Now for more rust effects, we use the Panzer Ace's light rust paint. So we thin it a bit with water and added a bit of retard or medium, and now we're like dubbing it around the rust areas again. But the main thing about this, another tip for this video, is that it's great for putting on darker backgrounds like metallic backgrounds like this one. As you can see, I'm putting it on the metallic paints. If you use washes with that one, if you use washes over dark colored like surfaces, you'll die first before you could see the result. So these paints are perfect for the metallic background and dark backgrounds and such, so that you're not like wasting time on using washes for those effects. Normally, I edit this out, but I just wanted to show you that you could flip-flop in between the steps and the processes or the methods in weathering. So now we're doing a bit more dark rust chipping with the sponge technique. It's basically like toning down all the rust that we've added so far. So you could flip-flop between all the steps. It's just that to make the videos more like step by step, I kinda edit this out most of the time. So I always say this in my post at Instagram. So basically, weathering for me is just accumulation and layers of Vallejo colors. So no, I mean layers and layers of paint. So as you could see, we do flip-flopping in terms of the steps to build up the layers. Again, I usually edit this out, but basically we're doing some refinements. Using the same sand yellow color, we're adding a bit of like highlights to the scratches, because we all know that if you paint lighter colors underneath the darker chipping, they will look like they're dented or something. So that's a classic technique in miniature painting. So I wanted to show it. Quick tip, dark rust is redder and the light rust is more orangey. Now we do a game ink black wash. This is a very intense wash. It's very dark and it stains more than normal washes, even your non-oil. This is very black and it's really nice to give more contrast to our metallic like parts of this model. Now we use clear orange and transparent orange for more rust over the metallic parts. So basically, as I've said earlier, if you do washes over dark backgrounds and metallic backgrounds, they will not be too visible. They will be too subtle. I think there's a very thin line between being subtle and wasting your time. So these transparent paints are awesome because they're opaque enough to see the results and see the nice effects that they give to the model, but they're transparent enough to blend a bit more over the background or over the surface of the model. So unlike washes that if you apply them on darker areas, it's practically not visible. Also, the paints are too opaque. You have to add glaze medium or something to make them a bit more transparent. So these paints are perfect for rust effects over darker backgrounds or darker surfaces. Like I said in the title, paint smart. Now we paint the NMM. I'm not comfortable saying NMM, also not comfortable painting it. So basically, since I came from the Gunpla hobby, which is like painting gold with whatever gold you want, meaning you just paint a black undercoat and then paint a flat layer of gold, no shading, no whatsoever. But so I'm not really comfortable doing this, but it works for me. Like, I start with the darker teeny tin and like move up to copper, and then eventually I'll paint a polished gold so that I'll have volume with my gold parts. So I paint the polished gold around areas that would receive more light, and then I keep the undersides of the parts, the gold parts, as teeny tin so that they look like they're shadows. Now we do the dry brushing. I'm using Model Air Aluminum. You could also use Model Air Chrome, but it's very bright for me. Also, there's Metal Color Range White Aluminum. It's also brighter, but it also has the matte finish, sort of matte finish of this color, which is really great because it won't be too bright. And then, as you could see, the effect of the Game Ink Black Wash earlier is giving more contrast to our dry brushing, which is really nice right now. Now we use Game Ink Sepia. Basically, this is like your Agrax shade or brown sepia washes and stuff, but this stains more and is very dark. So I really like it because it's perfect for panel lines and also to bring out the gold parts. You could do edge highlighting with the gold parts with the aluminum earlier, but I prefer doing sepia ink washes around the gold parts. Now for finishing touches, we're using oil stains and diesel stains. Diesel stains is redder, oil stains is like the sepia ink, but both of these paints are very glossy. These glossy paints are perfect to give accent to your metallic parts. They're very nice and very glossy. Also, the diesel stains, it's redder, it's perfect for giving accent or shadows to the gold parts. Now for our last paint, we use Game FX Verdigris. So this is just to give like an old gold look to the gold trims so that it will match our weathered look. I hope you like the video. If this video gets 100 likes, I will weather more Warhammer. That's it, we're done. I hope you liked the video. Do like, comment, subscribe, and consider joining the channel so that you'll be part of our Discord community. Saludos! Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to my channel. I'm an affiliate painter for Red Grass Games and also the head mecha and sci-fi painter for Vallejos Colors. I write painting articles for Fine Scale Modular Magazine. I also write articles for Fantasy Figures International Magazine. Lastly, if you're into Gunpla, do use my discount code for usagundamstore.com. Links down below.